Shy. Come on, step right up. Answer the questions.
Did Donald inherit any of McScrooge's money?
That would imply that McScrooge is willing to give it, which I don't think is the case.
What is your favorite and least favorite thing about being the voice of Donald? I know a lot of people love him and a lot of people really don't. I love him.
You know, I'm in the camp of folks who love him. I grew up with Donald Duck. My parents knew who Donald Duck was. My grandparents knew who Donald Duck was. My great-grandparents knew who Donald Duck was because he's 89 years young. So to be the third person to have officially voiced him in that period of time is really special to me. And my mom taught me how to do the voice when I was a little kid, so we had a very special relationship growing up. That was kind of our love language. We would talk in Donald Duck to each other. I recently lost my mom last month, unfortunately, but she was very proud of me and very happy that this all happened because it just lifted both of us up in so many different ways. I love Disney. I love the history of the character, all the characters. It is just... I'm doing this? What? Gets me every day.
When did you start voicing Donald Duck?
Well, thank you for that question. I started, I'm still relatively new. I started in 2015 with a really fun show called Mickey and the Roadster Racers. And so, yeah, I've kind of been living and breathing on the Disney Junior channel with a lot of their content, and that has just been such an amazing experience. So 2015 is when I started.
Yeah, so in the first season of DuckTales, did you also play Donald Duck's voice after he had the voice box?
No, afraid not. Don Cheadle actually jumped in to voice Donald for a little bit in his own natural speaking voice. It wasn't what's called buckle speech, which is the technical term for Donald Duck talk.
Who is your least favorite Disney character?
My least favorite Disney character it depends on who here from the Walt Disney Company is listening right now. I'm going to say, quite frankly, I really love all the Disney characters. I'm not paid to say that, but it's true. It's very true. I grew up with Disney and Looney Tunes and, oh gosh, I mean, all the classics, on TV. So, no, there is such a special place in my heart for all of those characters. No least favorites, and I can't say I have favorites because then Donald would be mad at me.
How many times have you been to Disneyland, and what's your favorite ride?
Oh, Disneyland. I've been to Disneyland probably in my lifetime. I'm going to say 6 times. 6 times. And my favorite ride... I really love the Haunted Mansion. I love dark rides, but Pirates of the Caribbean, Big Thunder Mountain, Star Wars, Rise of the Resistance. Don't make me choose. There's so many good ones. Haunted Mansion. That's it. Haunted Mansion.
Have you ever lost your voice when you played Donald Duck?
Good question. I've not lost my voice. Again, it's not a voice that I'm actually performing. It's a sound. It's a mechanism. There's a pocket of air in my cheek that actually makes the sound. So anytime I'm using and speaking in that character's voice, that's where that noise is basically coming from. So with that being said, it's like doing exercises. If you're, lifting, weights, eventually you're going to go, eventually that's going to happen. And there was one episode that I was recording where Donald had a bunch of lines. And mind you, when we go in for a session, we do an A, B, and C take. We'll do it 3 times so that we have, any issues, any weird sounds, or the delivery, we can have, room to tweak it. And in that particular episode, we had a lot of rewrites. So I was having to say lines, 5 or 6 times instead of 3. And by the end of it, I had like over 200 lines, and my tongue swelled up and my cheek started to bleed. And my director, hits the button and he goes, Daniel, I think we should take a break. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. This is going to be great. It's okay. So eventually I said yes. But yeah, it was a matter of learning my own limits in that case. And then from then on out, Just like working out. The more you do, the better you become, the stronger, faster, you know, homie? It's pretty cool.
So how many voices can you do? And then the second question, do you have people coming up to you and telling you they're Donald Duck?
In answer to the second question, yes, all the time, and I love it. I absolutely love it because that was me. Growing up, that was me. You know, if somebody else was doing a Donald Duck voice, I'd be there doing the Donald Duck voice just like everybody else. So, yeah, absolutely. I love it. I absolutely love that. And, you know, just from somebody on the other side of the fence, when I would go to conventions to meet my favorite voice actors, I would do the voice for them, and they'd say, "Oh, that's pretty good." And I go, "Yeah, right? Yeah." And they hear that all the time. But it was just that little piece of encouragement of, I hear you, I see you, we share something special together that I think makes voice acting in particular one of the coolest things that you can do or be attached to. So with the what was your first question again? How many voices can I do? I counted once, and I think I listed close to 300. Now, mind you, this is not just impressions. This is encompassing of accents. This is encompassing of, you know, like a weird voice that maybe I used to do in the neighborhood to make the kids laugh. You know, like that has a name that goes on the list. So yeah, probably close to 300. A lot of what I do when I do voiceover work for animation in particular is utility work. They'll bring me on for one voice and then give me a bunch of other small voices because they know that I have a certain kind of range, which of course I love doing. So the more the merrier. Great questions, thank you.
Does that include like walla acting?
Say that again?
Does that include like walla acting?
Walla's a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, look, you're using a voice for whatever the situation is, whether it's Walla or otherwise. Walla is less heard, so people will recognize this. When you go through the process of filming a movie, you'll notice that sometimes you have like two main actors and they're talking to each other and you hear them crisply and cleanly. And there's other people in the background in the restaurant who are having conversations. While they are filming, the extras are doing this. And the Walla group, the Loop group, are the people that go in afterwards and add the voices to the background. So if you're on a busy like New York street, you know, I'm walking here. All right, I'll meet you down at 42nd. Okay, like, yeah. Like, that's what a Loop group basically does. So sometimes there are some voices used, especially with animation. Sometimes they'll have little one-off characters. Hey, we need a Tweety Bird voice for this character. What you got? Okay, I'm a Tweety Bird. Okay, like whatever the case is, whatever fits, that you just kind of show up and do it.
Like, what's the salary and pay range like for a voice actor? And two, are you friends with any of the previous Donald Duck voice actors?
So, salary range, it's all over the place. I'm an independent contractor, and I go basically where I'm wanted. So I'm constantly auditioning all the time, every day, 2, 3, 5 times a day, sometimes 20 times a day. I'm auditioning. That's my job, 95% of the time. The rest of the time, I'm on TikTok, you know, doing social media or actually doing the job. So, yeah, and then the first part of that question, Clarence Nash, the original voice of Donald, passed away in 1984. So I did not have a chance to meet him. He voiced Donald from 1934 to 84 for 50 years. Tony Anselmo took over after him. He's been doing it for about 30 years. I'm the third guy, so I'm still relatively new. I have not met Tony yet. Oh, and I didn't answer that question earlier about what voice actors make. I'm so sorry. So I'm a union voice actor, and we make something called scale. Scale is basically what is universally negotiated for a day's work as a union actor, and then there's different layers and levels of contracts, you know, that can show up in that framework. But it's never set at one specific thing. Sometimes you can negotiate for a specific rate if you're that good, or you know you're that needed, or if you're a celebrity, or otherwise you get what they offer you, and you say yes, thank you. I mean, one affords me the opportunity to wear pants, and the other does not. So So, I mean, I like recording from home. It's very easy. Honestly, I like going into the studio. Number one, because you never know who you're going to run into. You never know who you're going to cross paths with and say hello and get the giggles because, oh my gosh, it's you, whoever you are. That's one of my favorite parts of going into the studio. The second part, I think, is I prefer to be in my creative element rather than focusing on the technical aspects of a recording session. And when I do it from home, I have to be cognizant of all those things. I have to make sure my levels are good. I have to make sure my, mic distance is good. My performance is good. All the while not having somebody to look, into their eyes and get a sense of what's going on. Zoom is fine, but it's not the same thing. So I do prefer to go in. But it's much easier otherwise. I can just roll straight up out of bed.
You said it does put a little bit of a strain on you. Is there anything in particular you do to recover after doing Donald for long periods of time?
Yes, sleep. I sleep, I bathe, I eat. Really, there's not much that I can do other than rest. Again, it's the mechanism that would get sore if I'm overusing it, or my tongue might swell up a little bit. Otherwise, I can still speak perfectly fine. But it is akin to holding your breath. So there have been times where I've almost passed out doing the voice because I'm just going on a slew of words, like a long sentence, and then I have to and then reset. Okay, take a second and do it again. But yeah, sometimes it's like, I'm holding my breath. I'm seeing stars.
Have you ever been noticed in public as Donald Duck?
That's a really good question. I have been noticed probably once for Donald Duck. Most people know me from TikTok, which I think is hilarious because I started TikTok obviously 2 years ago when the world ended. And it was just a means for me to have some escapism from being at home and just do something different, do something fun. But also as a part of my business, I have to stay in people's periphery. I have to stay within their line of vision, basically. Casting directors, producers, writers, they need to remember, oh yeah, Daniel Ross, he's out there among the thousands of other voice actors and actors. So it's important for me to be like, hey, I exist, hello. So doing silly videos and posting that across social media was huge, and kept me working over the past couple of years, which I don't know what I would have done had TikTok not been there. So yeah, TikTok is where most people notice me from. Some people know me from the Ninjas Versus movies, but these days it's pretty much TikTok. Apology accepted.
What would be your advice to young or older people who are interested in getting into voice acting?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I get asked that one quite a bit. There are a couple different things. First and foremost, I do voiceover coaching on the side, so I work with a lot of students. I do workshops and teach because I love voiceover, and I firmly believe that when you achieve something in life, no matter how big or small, you should throw the ladder out behind you and say, come on, everybody, let's go. So I like to take the years of experience that I've had working in this industry and say, here you go. Here it is on a plate. But a piece of advice that I would give to people is, number one, study acting. Study acting. It's one thing to do a silly voice to entertain somebody. It's another thing to completely embody a different character and bring them to life. No matter how silly the voice or realistic the voice, it is a character that you're portraying. So you should know a full dynamic of what that character is and how to bring that to life, how to block a scene and how to, perform the physicality of it, even if there is no physicality, which is unique to voiceover. It's a very complicated process, but studying acting is at its fundamental, probably the keystone. Studying improvisation. Everybody should study improv. Oh my gosh, it is great for all walks of life. Just the social dynamic of it, being able to listen and respond to somebody else, whether it's funny or not, will help you in all situations in life. I find it useful with voiceover because it keeps me thinking on my feet, keeps me making interesting creative choices, keeps me in a playful mode so that I'm able to more nimbly navigate that crazy lifestyle. But yes, fundamentals of acting, improv, check out a website called iwanttobeavoiceactor.com, which is curated by D. Bradley Baker, who's one of the biggest voice actors in our industry. That's a really great resource. And yeah, I think that's it. You're welcome. You know, audiobooks are one of those things that I just never found my way into. Audiobooks require, number one, a great narrating voice, a great sense of storytelling, but it also requires you to be able to tell the dynamic between some of the different characters when you're speaking in their voice. So that requires a specific talent that a lot of people in animation tend to gravitate towards. But I will say that audiobooks tend to pay a lot less than what I do. So I don't really seek out that work. But if something happened across my path, I wouldn't say no.
Hi, I'm wondering if you have any intellectual property patents on your voices or anything like that, or do they get hired out and you just do the voice they ask you to do?
You are hired and fired every time you go in and leave the studio. There is never usually a long-term contract unless you're like Tom Kenny for SpongeBob, or something like that. But most of the time, all the Looney Tunes characters, like the Warner Brothers characters, they're all hired and fired every single time.
So you don't develop characters and then market them patented?
Not specifically. Now, what I will do just with my day-to-day work, and that's a great question, by the way, thank you for that. I have a tool chest that I reach into and pull out for specific archetypes. So as a voice actor and as someone who's running a business, it's important for me to know what it is I'm good at so that I can say, hey, world, I'm good at that. You should pay me for this service. So that requires some headspace and thinking about, okay, what voices can I do? What voices can't I do? What am I really good at? What can I add layers to that are comfortable for me? So I probably have maybe about 10 different characters that I cycle in and out of on a regular day for, auditions. And then hopefully one of those characters becomes, so well known that I can't use it again, without somebody noticing. But that's happened on many occasions where I've used a similar voice over and over and over, and nobody knows. It just works for the project.
You talked about acting and
No, I didn't! End scene.
somebody kind of asked this question, but I want to phrase it differently. When you're had a long day, done Donald Duck or whoever it is, and it's a story, so the stories bring about different emotions or anything and stuff. Do you ever get trapped in those emotions and end up taking them home with you, and you just find that you're in the same space because you've been doing that all day?
What a fantastic question. Thank you for that. Not with Donald Duck. Not with Donald Duck. Donald is a joy and is one of those things where I've been doing it so much now that I don't feel like I have to even think about it. I step in front of the microphone and just kind of go, there you go. You speak through me. Go into the light, speaking through me. But there are other situations, like let's say video game roles, where you're doing something really serious or you're doing something like traumatic, like a character is dying or their village is being burned and their life is ruined. And as the performer, you kind of do have to internalize some of that to be able to show people that that's what's going on. The interesting thing about voiceover, everybody, and this is how I explain it, doing theater is like getting your bachelor's degree. Okay, you have to learn all these things and become a master of how to work within a proscenium, stage left, stage right, how to frame yourself so you're not turning your back, how to speak to the person in the back of the audience. Overly large, exaggerated physical motions, that's theater. Then you transition to film, where you take all that away. It's all behind the eyes. It's all within the intent. What do I do with my hands? What do I do with the person? What do I do with the scene? It has to be real. So there's a different transition there in terms of the performing art. Then we get to voiceover, and we take all of that away. We have no facial expressions. We can't talk with our hands. It all has to come through here. So when you make that realization of the difference between all these things and how difficult voiceover can actually be, it just gives you a real respect for how it works. And yeah, sometimes when I'm in the heat of a role and in the moment, I take a little bit of that with me. But here's the thing. A lot of what you put into an acting performance is already there. It's already within you. So some people, some actors, depending on what their style of acting is, they will go back into a role and they'll say, okay, I lost, like in this movie, my best friend, was just like shot and killed or something horrible like that. Well, I'm going to go back into my brain and think about when somebody close to me passed away. How did I feel? What did that do to the cadence and rhythm of my voice? What did that do to my anxiety or my depression? How does that come out when I speak about something? So those are all things that you have to think about. And because it's voiceover, I think it's enhanced in a certain way. It's like it's distilled. So a little bit of that can linger. And so having some mechanisms in place, self-care especially, having a good support system, people to talk to, learning how to meditate. I know it sounds kind of foofy, but you know what? It works. And when you carry this emotional weight and you give it to other people, it's important to keep yourself as safe as possible with that. I hope that answered the question. It's tough because it's like, now we're talking about acting stuff, acting proper stuff. And it can be tough.
Feature for when you're doing your voice that we should listen for, or something that's unique to you when you're doing characters?
Yes. So my voice type tends to be a little bit more quirky, a little more high energy, a little offbeat. I tend to do a lot of villainous characters. I tend to do a lot of quirky characters. So the through line through that, I think, is just the energy that I put into it. I think you'll hear the devotion to the role when I'm performing something as compared to maybe like the rest of the ensemble. I'll stick out in certain respects. But there is a cadence and a rhythm to my voice that is just learned from family and where I'm from, and that just kind of peeks in. And I notice it, but not a lot of people do. But there's no one thing. There's no one thing. That's a great question, though. Oh my gosh. Y'all with the questions today. I'm so happy. Hey there.
What was your time voicing Starscream in Transformers?
Oh my gosh, it was so cool. I'm a huge Transformers fan. Thank you for that question. I've got some Cybertronian on me. It says Transform. I've got a massive collection. I've been collecting since I was a kid. Yeah, Transformers was a hobby before it was anything else. And I came to the realization later in my adult life that I was always a voice actor and didn't realize it until later in life. And I think it was around the time that Beast Wars Transformers came out, around like 1996, that I started taking notice of the voices, like the people behind the voices. It was like a light bulb went off. Voice acting, there's somebody there. It's not just the character, there's a person. That's a job that somebody can have. Why not me? Why not me? So I made that realization. It was like, oh my gosh, now I'm learning about this voice actor or this voice actor. They did this project, they did that project. And it was like this whole world that I got pulled into. And I loved it so much. So Transformers got me into it, got me to understand the voiceover process. And then when the movie was about to come out, I campaigned to try to get into the movie, to get an audition. And so I created a comic book that featured myself in a story with the Transformers. I sent it to Michael Bay. I sent it to Steven Spielberg back in 2006. Just wanting an audition. Just wanting an audition. That's all I wanted. I didn't have any illusions that I would be in the movie. I just wanted to do it, to say, I did that. Look what I accomplished. And I got my audition. I was in a Toys R Us looking at Transformers when my agent called and said, you got the audition. And I went, what? What? Okay, this is kind of cool. So to be able to marry my hobby with my passion, that's where I cut my teeth, doing fan dubs from Japanese Transformer shows like Headmasters or Victory. And to have that be my origin story, basically, was just nuts. But I'll tell you this, too. I go into my session, and I had been rehearsing the voice that I booked, and they wanted something really scary, something really demonic that would frighten children. That was my note. And so we're re-envisioning Starscream, because the original Starscream sounded like this: Decepticons, retreat! Really high pitched. Cobra Commander also. Cobra, retreat! Same thing. Always retreating. And so we get into the booth, and me as the fan, I'm like, okay, let's do this for the next generation. And the voice we came up with was, Decepticons, this is Starscream. Make for the rendezvous point. The Allspark will soon. I can't even do it right now. Not enough Red Bull. But that was like the voice. And they said, you know, we just want a light British accent. And I said, so you're telling me you want Starscream to sound like this? Yes, that's what we want. And I went, please don't fire me, but no. They're like, okay, well, what do you got? And I went, Decepticons, this is Starscream. Make for the rendezvous point. The Allspark will soon be ours. And that's what we went with. And that stuck with me. And it was like, okay, I have to be okay with the fans potentially wanting to kill me and murder me lots, but that's what we ended up with, and I was so proud of it.
Do you want to tell me about Starscream?
Oh yeah, I've got him down at my table downstairs. You can come check him out. Oh, thank you.
Who was your favorite voice actor from Beast Wars?
Oh, I love them all. It's so strange because these people who I absolutely idolized are now my peers, colleagues, and friends, which is absolutely crazy to me. The individual who voiced Depth Charge, the Manta Ray, he's my good friend David Sobolov, who was probably the first individual to say, I think you got something with this voice stuff. I think you should work with that. And he's been one of my closest friends ever since. He's now the voice of Gorilla Grodd on The Flash, and he was in the Bumblebee movie. David Kaye, the voice of Megatron, Ian Corlett, Cheetor. I mean, I know everybody from the cast at this point, but I love them all. David, I think, was the most influential.
So I'm just curious, like being the voice of Donald now, was there a point where you saw like Donald stuff and went, wait a minute, that's me now? Like, was there a moment where you became official? How does that feel?
In my own mind, yes. Like I was saying before about being in front of the microphone and having to think and do all this work, and then to be able to eventually step away and just feel the character being channeled through me, that was really magical. That was cathartic as a voice actor to be cognizant of that moment and just kind of step away and go, okay, we did our work, we did our job. What was the other part of that question?
Just like, how does it feel to be like, to look at Donald's stuff and go, wait a minute, that's me?
So I had a moment. I was in Japan in 2019, early 2019, just to go, and I had an amazing time. And as I was on my way back to the airport, I'm sitting on the train, and there's a little kid sitting next to me, and he's going, vroom, vroom, vroom. And I look over, and he's got a little Donald Roadster Racer. And he's sitting there playing with it, minding his own business, and I just took that moment in. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. I just kind of took that in and went, wow, look at that. He has no idea he's sitting next to the voice of Donald Duck. But it's those little moments that really make everything worthwhile to me. I mean, this is a job that I do. Voice acting is a job. It's my business. And I dedicate so much of my time and energy towards it. But when you step out into the world and you see those little things, just the little tiny piece of joy, the realization that you're a tiny cog in a big machine that makes people happy is just, it's incredible.
I would also like to thank you and congratulate you because my mom tells me I've been a Donald fan since I was really little. I know I am now. I just love him so much.
And I would also love to throw in, I would love for you to follow me on social media. If you want to follow me using actor Daniel Ross, you can find me on everything using that handle. It helps me as a performer because we need good numbers so that we get cast in things. And it's just good to keep in touch with everybody. So please and thank you. Please do follow me.